Okay, let's dive right in. Today, we're going to break down a really powerful framework for evaluation. It's called Stakes Countenance Model, and it's all about seeing the complete story behind any program.
But first, let me ask you something. You've got a program, and the students all pass the final exam. Is that program a success? I mean, it seems like it, right? But is that really the whole picture?
You know, the problem is, when we only look at those final results, we're only seeing what happened. We completely miss the how and the why behind it all. It's kind of like skipping to the last page of a mystery novel. You find out who did it, but you have no idea how the detective figured it out. You miss the whole story.
So what if there was a way to avoid that? A way to look at a program and see its complete face, all its features, all its moving parts, all at once. To get the full portrait instead of just a blurry snapshot of the results.
Well, that's exactly where Robert E. Stake's countenance model comes in. And you should really think of it less as a stuffy academic theory and more like a practical evaluation toolkit. It's designed specifically to help us see that whole story from the very beginning to the very end.
And the biggest clue is right there in the name, countenance. It literally means the face or a person's expression. And that's the whole idea. The model shows us the program's full face so we can see how all the different parts work together to create the final picture.
The model breaks this down into 3 really logical phases. It's simple: what goes in, what happens during, and what comes out. In the model, these are called antecedents, transactions, and outcomes. Let's take a look at each one.
So first up, you've got antecedents. This is basically all the inputs. It's everything that's in place before the program even kicks off. We're talking about things like the curriculum plans, teacher qualifications, the resources, the funding, all that foundational stuff that really sets the stage. Then we have the transactions. This is the process, the action phase. This is the lively, dynamic part where things are actually happening. The teaching methods being used, how students are interacting, any mentoring that's going on. This is where we finally get to see the how.
And finally, of course, we get to the outcomes, the results. But look how much broader this is than just test scores. It includes things like skills developed, changes in attitude, even parent satisfaction. It's trying to capture the full impact, not just one number.
Okay, so we've got our 3 phases: inputs, process, and results. But the model adds another really clever layer on top of this. For each of those 3 phases, we're going to look at them through 2 different lenses. These 2 lenses are description and judgment. Description is all about the facts. It just objectively records what is. For example, what curriculum is being used. Judgment, on the other hand, is where we assess the quality. We ask, how good is it? Is that curriculum actually effective? It's the difference between what is and so what.
Now for the really cool part, what I like to call the power tools of the model. These are 2 concepts that help us connect all the dots and find that deeper story. They're called congruence and contingency.
Congruence is all about alignment. It asks a really simple but powerful question. Did we actually do what we said we were going to do? It's a reality check between our plan and what really happened. A big gap here is a huge red flag that a lot of evaluations totally miss because they jump straight to the results.
And then there's contingency. This is all about cause and effect. It looks for the logical links between the phases. How did the inputs affect the process, and how did that process lead to the results? It helps us map out the plot of our program's story.
The cake analogy makes this crystal clear. Think about it. The final delicious cake, that's your outcome. But that depends on the baking process, right? The transactions. And a proper baking process depends on having good ingredients to start with, the antecedents. If you start with bad ingredients, it doesn't matter how great of a baker you are, the cake just isn't going to be good. Every stage depends on the one that came before it.
So enough with the theory. Let's make this real. We're going to walk through a quick, simplified evaluation of a Bachelor of Education program, a B.Ed program for training new teachers, and see how this whole toolkit comes together.
All right, first up, the antecedents, the inputs. We describe the facts. The curriculum covers pedagogy and ethics. The faculty is qualified. The classrooms are well-equipped. Then we judge them. Overall, looks pretty good. The foundations are rated satisfactory to good. Now, for the transactions, what's actually happening? We observe things like micro-teaching sessions and see that student engagement is high. Our judgment? Mostly good. So the story that's building here is that the good inputs are leading to an effective learning process.
And finally, the outcomes. The data shows 80% of students are now proficient teachers, and student feedback is positive, so we judge those results as good and satisfactory. And here's the key. We've now drawn a clear line, connecting good inputs and good processes to good results. We see the whole chain of events.
And all of this leads to a conclusion that is actually useful. Instead of just saying, the program works, we get a rich summary like this one. We can see its strengths, like that well-structured curriculum, and we can also pinpoint specific areas that need work, like classroom management. It's so much more actionable.
So, after seeing it in action, let's just step back for a second. Why does this model matter so much? Why go to all this trouble?
Well, here are the big takeaways. This model forces us to look beyond that final score. It gives us that complete portrait of the program we talked about. And most importantly, it connects the dots between the inputs, the processes, and the outcomes. And because it does that, it gives us real, actionable insights we can use to make the program even better. And that leaves us with one final thought to chew on. Think about a program that you're familiar with, maybe at your job, in your community, anywhere. What hidden story, what connections between the setup, the process, and the results could this model help you uncover?